This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 424. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me is my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
So despite the trouncing that we took to the Niners over this Thanksgiving weekend, how was your Thanksgiving weekend? Despite that, because I think we both probably tried to put that aside for the rest of the weekend, yeah?
It was good. I discovered that there must also be tryptophan in tri-tip steak because, you know, after eating a good Thanksgiving meal, it wasn't turkey, it was tri-tip. Still got Thanksgiving nap in, so I guess that's how it works.
They both start with try. That's for sure.
Uh-huh.
One thing the Seahawks tried to do was be competitive against the Niners. Didn't work.
No, that was an interesting transition away from.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Yeah.
What if I want to hear about what food you had?
Brittany worked on Thanksgiving Day, and so she brought home a plate of Thanksgiving dinner from the bar/restaurant that she was working at.
She was going to make food on the wood stove.
She was, and then she was asked if she would work, so she did. And then the next time she was going to do food, and when the kid was here, and then she kind of lost track of time. And by the time we got home and it was about dinner time, she hadn't even thought out a thing yet. So didn't do that. And then the next night she did though. It was so it wasn't Thanksgiving. It was like 2 days removed.
Oh my gosh. Why does it have to be this hard? I just want to know what you got to eat for Thanksgiving dinner, whether it was on Thanksgiving, doesn't matter. I just want to know what food you ate.
Chicken, turkey stuffing, mashed taters, pecan pie. Yeah. All the good stuff. Yeah.
Just like our Seahawks, a lot tougher than it had to be to get there.
Oh man. Yeah, going back and rewatching some of the all 22, I don't know if it made me feel better or worse when it's all said and done. It's an interesting game. I don't know. We talked a bit about it in the post game show, obviously, but did you want to kind of go back through some of the plays of the game, or did you want to kind of more focus on some of the stuff that happened throughout the game and then kind of go from there?
I'm fine with going more off of themes. I feel like we covered it enough. And I suppose if you want to focus on some of the good aspects that you got out of it on the rewatch, they were so far behind by the time that they started producing in the third quarter. I have a hard time, you know, you can put on the rose-colored glasses and say, oh yeah, well, Seahawks, they outscored the 49ers in the second half. You know, it was 10-7. But again, I think that they were so far behind, it doesn't have enough impact for me to say, well, they outplayed them. It's like, yeah, but San Fran was in coast mode after scoring so many points in the first half.
Yeah, I don't know if they were necessarily in coast mode in the third, but
No.
The Seahawks get the pick six and score, and then they march down the field and have a field goal and get it within 11. And that was a point in the game where you felt like this could actually turn, even though they had gotten just lambasted in the first half. And, you know, looking back at that first half, a couple things that stood out a lot was, one, just the 49ers average field position when they started each drive. I mean, holy smokes. I mean, they were at least 3 drives that started in Seahawks territory, and the other ones were, you know, just barely on the other side of the 50. And, you know, I think about that and people complaining about the defense, and it's like, okay, well, you put them in a terrible situation and then are mad that you let them score time after time after time. It's a little like, say you work in a factory, Brandon, making doodads. All right. And, you know, you're in the middle of the doodad line, and it takes you about 10 minutes to do your doodad part on average, you know, whether the bad ones or the good ones. You know, the good ones maybe take you 7 minutes. The bad ones take you 12. Right.
Right.
So you get to work one day, and the guy before you is the one who, like, you know, makes the good ones or the bad ones for you to work on. And the boss has that dude send you all the bad ones that day. You take all the bad ones, and then the boss comes down after the end of the day, and you get them done on an average of, say, 11 minutes. So a little better than your average for the bad ones.
Right.
Then the boss comes down at the end of the day and is like, you suck. When you're at your best, you're doing 7 minutes of doodad, but you were doing 11 minutes of doodad. what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Would you not be pissed at your boss for putting you in a terrible position to succeed? Because that's what I feel like happened in the first half for the defense. They were put in a terrible position to succeed over and over and over again.
I think if I were put in that position, I would just work on my tackling and be better at tackling. And I feel like I could help slow down the 49ers by tackling better. I know I really twisted that.
Yeah. And look, part of it too is the tackling aspect. You're going against some of the best dudes at breaking tackles. I mean, let's give McCaffrey his credit. He's awesome at breaking tackles.
Oh, yeah.
Debo's awesome at breaking tackles.
And that dude who wears number 15, amazing at breaking tackles every time he gets the ball.
Well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. Yeah, for that one time he got the ball. You bet.
That one time he got the ball and 4 guys tried to tackle him. Quandre looking back, I didn't realize how badly Quandre whiffed on that tackle because he goes in and out of the frame so fast that I had a hard time even picking out who exactly it was that whiffed.
That's a good point. I mean, gosh, there was 3 dudes in on that play and nobody could get the guy down.
And then Quandre comes screaming in and just hits air and the guy picks up the first down.
Look, Quandre does a lot of amazing stuff. He's an all-pro type safety. Tackling is not his best strength. It's just not. He's a free safety.
And he does a lot of other things well. So I'm not saying that, and I really like Quandre Diggs. I just, if we're going to bang on aspects of the team, in particular tackling, I feel like I have to recognize that play and that it wasn't just Witherspoon who was in on the tackle, and he was at least there. He needed a little bit of help just based on his positioning, and then he didn't get any help from either Trey or I'm going back to Tariq. He was better as Tariq.
Yeah, for sure, because he was a better tackler than gets benched for Mike Jackson. And man, I remember thinking when that happened, I was like, is this really the time to teach a young man a lesson? Like, can we do this another day? Like, does it need to be in the middle of a division rival game where you're going to need all of your talent on deck to even have a prayer to get back in this thing?
So you're of the belief that he was benched, and Pete's lying to us when he says that it was his shoulder injury that made it so he needed to come out of the game.
Yes. Because Pete protects his players. That's okay. I don't expect Pete to tell me the truth every time he steps in front of the microphone. I don't.
We need to know which players are being disciplined and which aren't. Like, all this information needs to be known by us.
Right. Yeah. And I know we'd love it for sure. It'd be awesome, but not the way the NFL works. But yeah, defensively, I think probably the most disappointing part to me, man, was all of the underneath zone, underneath the shell coverage, whether that was linebackers or Julian Love or even Adams in coverage there on Kittle that one play. It was piss poor, man. And I'm watching the Niners play their zone matchups and their underneath zone, and they go from zone to man within the play. So a player enters your zone, they go and man up that player. Our players don't do that. They just sit in their zone. Like, it's so much more important to guard that space than it is, I don't know, the players.
Which is weird because I distinctly remember Clint Hurt talking about trying to use that same type of defensive concept with this group. And so I don't know why there's a disconnect in that execution part of it, but it's something that he talked about.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's something that's been a bugaboo of this defense for about as long as I can remember. And I don't see it being fixed anytime soon. I look at the defense and I think about their issues, and it's like, well, what's really solvable by scheme? I don't know that you can fix tackling by scheme.
No.
I don't know that you can fix that your linebackers aren't good in coverage by scheme. I think it's one of those things where what we're getting out of the defense, which is about 2 to 3 good quarters a game, I think that's about the ceiling for this defense right now in terms of you can only really, I think, fix the tackling probably next offseason, right? Have like an actual focus on it throughout. Can you fix that in season? I mean, maybe.
I think you can. But it's something that we've been talking about, I feel like, for 3 years being an issue. So if you can't fix it during the season and you can't fix it in the off season, it feels like a coaching issue. or maybe just a talent issue, maybe a little bit of both.
Little column A, little column B.
I think there is scheme things that you can do, and I think we are seeing some of those scheme things. Like we're seeing them play 3 safeties and 2 corners and have that be more of the primary defense, and even bringing in an additional defensive back with Bobby Wagner out there and playing, well, in dime coverage, right? So
yeah,
that's something you can do.
You can, and I mean, they're doing it, but I think we're kind of at the point to where it feels like many of the adjustments are all adjusted out. I mean, they started stunting more, that helped. They started bringing pressure more, that helped. If we do think about this team last year compared to this team this year, last year, the defense was absolutely dreadful. Maybe one of the worst defenses I have ever seen in Seahawks history.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was one of the worst. It has to be top 5 bad in Seahawks history. Has to be. Just statistically.
And that was part of the conversation in the offseason was, could this defense get to about average? So that way the offense, it could emphasize the offense that much more. They could be on the field more and get better production. And all we needed was an average defense. Well, now we have about an average defense, and now the offense isn't looking so good.
Now the offense isn't looking so good. So I saw, you guys did the 3 and 3 out and entitled it the blame game. And I think we've been kind of playing that as fans here throughout the last couple of days since the game. And I've heard a lot of people talk about the defense, and I'm not saying they weren't a problem. Like, they could have been better for sure. I'm not sure how, but they could have been. But really, man, I start looking at this in the offense is outrageously bad right now. I said it in the postgame show. They are broken, absolutely broken. And
I thought you just blamed the officials for the loss on the postgame show.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I remember at the start of that show, Brandon, you said something like the NFL gave us the gift of the Seahawks playing late, so it didn't ruin our entire day.
Right.
And
I attributed that to Mina,
I was like,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a transition, I thought, well, because I listened, because I know how conversations work. I was like, oh, we just talked about the NFL. We want to transition to something else here. Okay. Oh, the NFL also gave us a few bad calls, and the offense is completely broken. I can't believe that I tried to be a professional in broadcasting and use an awkward transition. Like you heard Mike Tirico do about 5 times throughout the broadcast, whether it was like Collinsworth being like, Mike, I went down to Pike Place and I gotta tell you, yeah, I'm not into fish. Don't buy fish, but I decided to buy fish. Spends $800 on fish, and then what was Tirico's transition? It was something like, somebody who costs about $800 on the roster for the Niners, Brock Purdy. It's how transitions work.
Yeah, sometimes they're awkward, sometimes they work amazing, and we're 10, 15 minutes into the show, and you've had examples of both.
Oh yeah, usually mine are more miss than hit for sure, no doubt about it. You're the transition king. But yeah, to me, man, the offense is the primary problem here. If they can, let's say in the first half, when they started some of those drives pinned down deep in their own end, let's say they can get 2 first downs, but still have to punt.
Yeah.
It flips the field position, gives the defense a fighting chance, because you saw if the defense was put in a normal situation like they were in the third quarter, they got a pick and 2 stops in a row, those 3 drives in a row. If they could just have done that, that would have been a huge difference in this game.
And instead, Gino decides to awkwardly run it on a run pass option on first down, the first play of the game. It doesn't get off to a very good start. Next 2 passes go incomplete. They go 3 and out. And then on the next drive, pinned back down in their side, he trips over Zach Charbonnet. So, and I don't know whether to put that on Gino or Zach for just being in the way to trip him. But either way, it was bad.
Unfortunate things happen sometimes. Like, that's not one that I'm going to worry too much about, but a bummer. You're like, geez, we can't make mistakes like that against a team like this. One of the teams that are the cream of the crop in the NFL. And as much as I hate saying it, it's a true fact. I said it in the post-game pod, but you would never know listening to 49ers.
Well, you were too busy blaming the officials for people to listen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. By talking about Waldron being a disaster right now. But yes, that was unfortunate. You cannot make those mistakes. And then they kill another drive with the false start from Jason Peters. So, one of the things that I believe in largely, Brandon, is that it's easy to go around and look at the problems and be like, that's a problem. This is a problem. Da, 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 da. What do you have for solutions? And to me, one of the biggest problems this team has, it's got two big ones, I think, offensively. They're tied for dead last in the league in penalties. And they're something like third in false starts, pre-snap penalties. Like, I understand holds happen. I understand all that. But pre-snap stuff, that's all within your control. And they're one of the worst teams in the league at false starts.
Like Charbonnet lollygagging out to the sideline and not getting set before the snap gets off.
Absolutely. They had that delay a game against the Rams when they're getting ready to QB sneak it.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, where you're just like, holy cow, you can't make it that much harder on yourself. And to be that heavily penalized as a team pre-snap, I mean, you're basically taking 10 percentage points off of your win probability, I would imagine. I mean, I'm not Cynthia Fraudland, but yeah, I mean, it feels about like that in terms of stats.
So cleaning up penalties would be one way to help improve.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think about this offense and what they need to do?
Penalties is a big issue. I feel like we hammer on it all the time that they aren't running the football enough or throwing the football over the middle. And I feel like we know now, after 3 offensive coordinators, 2 different quarterbacks, that it has to be a Pete Carroll philosophical issue to generally avoid the middle of the field. And there's reasons for it. There's statistics that show that you are more likely to throw an interception, throwing passes over the middle of the field as opposed to throwing it toward the perimeter. And that's just, one of those statistical facts of the NFL. But it limits your offense. And then when you end up not running the football either, then all of your plays are toward the perimeter and the defense knows exactly where you're going with the football. And so I think
those throws are more likely to be picked off.
Yes.
Because you're predictable, right?
Yeah.
So now you're in the same boat that you would be in if you threw over the middle more.
Yeah. And the thing is you're not going to throw an interception by running the football. So I don't understand why that part's the difficult part.
If you listen to old school coaches like Bud Grant, on a pass play, there are 3 possible outcomes and 2 of them are bad, an incomplete or a pick.
Pete Carroll, that's where he happened to be. That happens to be the man he was hired by first to coach in the NFL.
And that's why I think the way this offense is structured is so confusing. So I did a little thought of experiment, a little research, but I want to start with a question for you, Brandon. If you, off the top of your head, what are some of the top offenses in the league in your mind? Like if you had to just pluck them out of the air just by watching football, don't worry about the stats, just in your opinion.
Niners, Eagles, probably toward the top. Ravens might be up there. They were awfully good. Other offensive team, Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How deep are you asking me to go here? Miami.
I mean, I would throw Detroit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how well they've done recently, but I feel like they got off to a pretty good start.
Yeah. Maybe Buffalo. I mean, I know they've been up and down, but I mean, when they're clicking, they're damn good
against the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not broken, right? Not broken. They got rid of their OC and it seemed to help.
Right.
For sure. But so of those teams, then like, if you're thinking of this roster and these players that we have in Pete Carroll's, preached philosophy in terms of how he likes to play football.
Yeah.
Of those offenses, which ones do you think match up? We would maybe be able to emulate or be the closest to emulating in terms of style of play with the personnel that we have.
With the players that we have, it could match up. And maybe this is just me with rose-colored glasses, but I feel like it could match up more with the Niners and Eagles. But I feel like it ends up being closer to the Bills,
or Detroit.
Yeah. Just by the sheer fact that those teams don't really run the football as much as I think they should or could with the personnel they have.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So To me, the three teams that I look at that I'm like, I think these are the teams that play Pete Carroll style football and what I want us to play football like. And I feel like we have the personnel to do is San Francisco, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Those are the three to me. Sure. And they're all different, right? I mean,
Baltimore, you have the running quarterback, which.
Right. So they get a lot of their run yards with the running quarterback.
Yeah.
Whereas the 49ers, like Brock Purdy isn't Lamar.
Yeah.
But he has CMC. Gus Edwards isn't CMC, right? But they have Lamar. And, Philadelphia, they're a little bit more well-rounded all the way around, I would say. And so those would be the three teams. And there's some interesting things with that, Brandon. I put together some slides. And one of the things that's interesting about this is let's talk about the teams that are in the top half of the league in run percentage. And I've highlighted a few of those teams that you talked about. All right. So these are all the teams that are in the top half of the league in run percentage. But you can see, some of the teams we were talking about, Baltimore, number 1, San Francisco, number 2, Philly, 5, Detroit, 10. They're all in the top 10 running the football.
Yeah.
Dallas and Buffalo being in the top half. Okay. So where do the Seahawks fall on that? There are only 6 teams worse than us.
Oh, gosh.
In terms of run percentage throughout the NFL.
That's wild.
We're in the bottom third of the league.
Well, we don't get enough first downs to be able to run the football at a higher percentage rate, Adam. Haven't you heard Pete Carroll speaking this so far this year? They need to be better on third down so they can run the football more.
Yeah, that I have heard that. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh, good.
But let's see how this correlates to some of the best offenses in the league. And so I reached out to you guys on a text thread earlier in the week and was like, hey man, like what stat do you like for determining, if an offense is good or not? I like old school stats more than the new school stats. So for me, the name of the game is scoring points. It's points per game. It's points per game offensively. Take a look at this list, man. All these ones that are highlighted, they were in the top half of the league in running the football. And oh my goodness, look at that.
Yeah.
6 out of the top 7 are those teams.
It surprises me that Miami isn't like a run heavy team.
Oh, so here's the dirty little secret. They might be right close to us in terms of run percentage.
Right.
But they lead the league by a mile in yards per attempt. So they may not do it as often as these teams. It's because they're unbelievably effective at it. They lead that category by almost a yard.
Wow.
So these are all highly effective run teams that are in the top 7 of the NFL here in points per game. And I know a lot of people out there are like, that doesn't tell the full story. I don't know. Do you like points per game or do you like something else? Or does anything else stand out?
I like points per game. I think yards per play can be good. I think DVOA generally captures some of those more advanced metrics kind of all into one.
Okay. But I mean, does this speak to you at all? Just this little list right here?
Oh, well, I mean, I know that running the football is a good thing to do and that offensive points per game, I mean, this makes sense because it's points and your best teams are going to score a lot of points. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you brought up DVOA. That was the one that Phil, the protector Phil, he said out of he likes more of the new age stats. He thought the DVOA was a good one. Take a look at that. See any common themes?
Yeah. I see that you misspelled Philadelphia, but that's fine.
Well, they deserve it.
It's not important.
Yeah.
Filet. Yeah. Okay. So again, it's what? 5 out of the top 6, and Dallas is still on the board here.
And Miami, again, is a highly effective run team. The crazy part is this list didn't change a whole hell of a lot between points per game and DVOA.
No.
They're pretty close. So
the numbers are just a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. But that leads me to believe that this is a pretty good sampling of the top offenses in the league. And, we're in the bottom half of the league in both of these categories. So you had also mentioned that, you got to run your stuff to be able to run the football more and have more first downs and things like that. Can you run the ball on the first down?
Yeah, every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you can do that, right? Like that's
allowed.
That's a thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, lo and behold, 3 of the teams that I think that we could be closer to in the style I'd like to emulate: Baltimore, Philadelphia, San Francisco, top 7 in the league and running the ball on first down. Seahawks are 21st. 21st.
And the thing that I'm also noticing this by first down run percentage is that if you're of the opinion that Geno Smith is not good, then you would want to lean toward and point towards some of these other teams like Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Atlanta don't have good quarterbacks, which makes it better for them to operate via the run more often.
Right. So when we go through these run statistics, the thing that you'll notice about the bad teams, they all have trash quarterbacks. Geno is not a trash quarterback. He's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
He's pretty damn good. And with that said, a lot of people are like, oh, that's archaic thinking. It's 1980s football. You're not going to, be able to win any games that way. This is a pass happy league. All the rules are skewed for that. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it turns out running the football might help you get explosive plays in the passing game, Brandon.
No.
The next slide that we've got for you, boys and girls, big play passes of over 25 yards or more. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yep.
Only 4 though. Only 4 of the top 6, right?
I got you. But the idea that if you run the football early and often, it limits you from having explosive plays downfield is asinine.
No, and Miami's
and not
still
only
up
that.
there.
And not only that, if you go past the top 10, like the next 4 or 5 teams, it's all the teams we've been talking about.
No, then that makes sense.
So you look at this and you say the Seahawks are in the bottom third of the league in running percentage.
Yeah.
They're bottom third of the league in first down run percentage. And their offense stinks and it's broken because you're not utilizing Geno Smith's best attribute, which is play action passing, predicated off of a good run game.
Right.
And you want to know how I know that just simply running the football will work? There was one drive that was successful in the game, I would say. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, third quarter.
14 play drive. Yeah.
But we don't even have to point to Seahawks examples because you just pointed out in the data that teams that run the football end up having more explosive plays. And that was one of the things that jumped out to me too, was listening to some of the interviews from this week. And DK Metcalf, he was asked about offensive identity and kind of what the Seahawks were going for. And for DK to have an answer, this must be something that's talked about within the team. And he mentioned more explosives. And so it seems like a huge correlation here between running the ball effectively and explosive plays and choosing to run the football on early downs.
It all lines up. In the Seahawks' best drive, man, they had 5 first downs. They ran on 3 of them. They had 14 plays. They ran on 6. Those are close to those percentages that we're talking about that these other teams do. And it was our best drive of the day. The drives that failed and were garbage, pass, pass, pass.
Yeah, it's weird because that was kind of the in vogue thing to do a few years ago when it was, the Rams and the Chiefs throwing it all over the football field. But now it's come back, I think, more closely to what football has looked like for almost all of modern times.
So it's interesting you bring that up, man. I was looking at the historical averages of run play percentages over time. And basically it ranges from about 25 to 28% 25 to 28 attempts a game.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Right. Run attempts. And you look at that, and the lowest was that mid 2010 section that you were talking about. That's where it got as low as about 25 attempts a game on average. And the league has now totally switched around where all the defenses are playing the Fangio too high or shell coverage stuff, right? And the way that you beat that is running the football, and the league has adjusted. And the crazy part is, man, it was like 0.2 attempts different between 1994 and 2023 when we were sophomores in high school.
Okay.
Football is football, man. I don't care what area you're in. It all works a certain kind of way. And you have to run the rock to be able to set up your passing game. It's the way ball works.
The one thing I wonder about that too, though, is if we're even focusing necessarily on, I mean, this is part of the problem, but Ryan Ball, one of our listeners, posted to us offensive line rankings for the entire NFL and pointed out that the Seahawks are ranked number 29 in the league for offensive line. And you're shaking your head.
Yeah. Is that another PFF stat?
No, this is Pro Football Network.
Oh, okay. I find those positional group rankings are highly subjective. And also, too, I think they put this offensive line in a terrible position, throughout each and every game by the way that the sequencing of play calls goes and not running the football. Let them get downhill. Let them, put the fear into the defensive lineman rather than be basically playing defense on offense the entire game while you're throwing the football when you're speaking in the trenches.
Well, yeah, one way to put your offensive line in a bad position is by running a lot of 5-step, 7-step drops. And then, especially if it's against a defensive line that's good, like we were facing against the 49ers, and not doing more of the short underneath stuff, which I thought that the Seahawks might actually do if they were going to be more of a passing team. And you don't even see them do what a lot of other teams do, is they send a lot of guys in those deep developing plays. And then there's always that outlet dude who's right there to catch the pass, who can take it for 4 or 5 yards. And sometimes that guy can break away and get an explosive play too. Like, just because you're throwing it short doesn't mean that you can't pick up more than 5 yards.
100%. And let's say you drop back to pass on first down and you get a short sack, 3-4 yards, and you're in 2nd and 14. There's nothing in the world that says that you have to throw the ball down the field on 2nd and 14. You can run something, a draw. You can even go to your bread and butter outside zone and get 5-6 yards and now have a 3rd and relatively manageable, rather than now a 3rd and 12 after, you end up getting a bunch of pressure and Gino scrambles for a yard.
And a deep throw to the outside to DK that, and I'm not even putting this all on DK by mentioning that. It's just we see a lot of throws deep downfield to DK, and I don't mind it a couple times a game, but it seems like it's an overused play, and one that I think even when DK's healthy, he's not the best contested catch guy. And I think that, so one, they could have their contested catch guy be somebody else. And 2, they could not attack that spot so heavily.
For sure. And in this game, there's 3 slaunches down the left sideline to DK, I think.
At least.
And one hit him in the hands.
Mm-hmm. One he caught and didn't get his feet down.
Didn't get his feet down. Like, you have to make those plays. You have to make those plays. And the third
was
one,
well defended.
Yeah, Charvarius Ward just barely got his hand out there. Great play by him. It was a perfect ball, and it was going to hit him right in stride. So, if you're going to do it, that's fine. But then DK is going to have to be that guy at the end of the day. And at least on Thursday, he wasn't. And the crazy part is, man, is that the Seahawks run like an average of 60 plays a game, just a smidge under. So to go from where they are percentage-wise running the football to that upper 7 or so, they would need to run it like 5-6 more times a game.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not talking about revamping the entire freaking offense. But can we at least try?
And then you can run other plays, because then you're getting first downs by hopefully running the football. I mean, it's something different. Maybe they don't, but I have a feeling that it's not going to work any worse than what we've seen so far.
No, I mean, we all know the definition of crazy, and it feels like we keep doing it each and every week. And either Shane Waldron is a slow learner or stubborn, and I'm not sure which it is, but I know a lot of people are blaming Pete for this, but I think one of the things that Pete does well as a coach and help to bring back-to-back Super Bowl appearances to the Seahawks is when he brings in talent, both players and coaches, he says, you do you, man. I'm going to let you do your job. And And in this case, he needs to step in because Waldron doesn't get it. He doesn't understand how today's NFL works. If you're in the 2010s, sure, this philosophy is right on point. But for 2023, it doesn't.
Well, and that's why I go back to more of that idea of, I think it is Pete maybe being a little bit tough on Waldron, because I think to unlock that type of offense, then if you're going to be that pass heavy, you have to use some of those routes in the short, middle, crossers, the ones that might result in more interceptions. You have to be able to use that to make everything else work. And so without that, you end up with kind of an inept looking offense.
So either you're going to live with throwing the ball short over the middle a bit more, or
taking on a little more risk.
Yep. Or you're going to hand the ball off. I don't care who it's to. I don't care if it's K9. I don't care if it's Charbonnet. Whatever your flavor is as a Seahawks fan, or Pete Carroll or Shane Waldron. I don't care really specifically what down they do it on either. I really don't.
Yeah. First or second down. Just do it.
Just do it. Because it's plain as day, man. And I got roasted on this in the comments on the post game for saying, you just need to run the football more. And the proof is in the pudding, guys. I mean, we showed it to you.
I feel like we went for a while where first down passing ended up being more effective because the defense was expecting more run plays on first down. But I feel like that's probably come back more toward normal too.
So the crazy thing about it too, Brandon, like if you look at the Seahawks pass play percentage from last year and this year, they're almost identical. Almost identical.
Oh.
In last year, they were middle of the pack in the league. This year, they're in the top 7. So you can see the entire league has shifted more towards running the football because of the fact that defenses are playing more shell coverages and trying to get them out of that so that you can then get to your explosives.
Right. It's interesting how quickly it can shift in that regard. And it surprises me with a head coach like Pete Carroll that he wouldn't put more of an emphasis on it right away. And one of the questions we got from one of our listeners was, now that the Seahawks, they've had 4 offensive coordinators under Pete Carroll, saying he's the common denominator, do we need to renew the Pete Carroll conversation?
A lot of people want to. People want to. And I get that. Just remember where you were right around January 1st last year in your thought process regarding Pete Carroll. We all were over the moon. Like, look at what Pete did. We were supposed to be last in the league. We made the playoffs. He resurrected Geno.
He gave us hope for this season, and now he's taken it away with these past 2 losses against the Rams and the Niners.
That's true. But it shows how
now we need a head on the pike.
Yeah, it just shows how captive we are as fans to our feelings in a lot of this stuff instead of looking at it objectively. And objectively speaking, Pete Carroll is fine. And he's going to run out the string for as long as he wants to. They're not going to fire him. Unless they went like 2 wins throughout a season, they're not going to fire him. It's not happening, people. He's going to coach until he says he's going to retire. So just accept it and then realize that you need to do something a little different. And within that time period of those 4 coordinators, Brandon, did he win Seattle's only Super Bowl?
Well, he did. I think that we want to see more, though. And
of course,
I feel like we end up complaining about some of the same things. But I guess I didn't think that we'd end up complaining about Pete Carroll not running the football enough, especially when they go out and they draft a running back in the second round back-to-back years.
Exactly. So I feel like this solution that I feel like has at least a 75% chance of working.
Yeah.
Is not only what the league is doing, but it fits Pete's philosophy. It closes the circle of toughness of football that he talks about all the time. And you can make that change tomorrow. Like, you don't have to retrain things. You don't have to design new plays. You don't have to do it. You just have to run the stuff that's already in the playbook with the guys you already have who have already practiced it. And I know somebody asked, is it can't or won't that they won't run the football? I love the question because I ask it all the time. And it's won't. It's not because they can't. They're dead nuts middle of the pack when it comes to yards per attempt.
Right.
At 4.1.
That's where most of the league is. And as you pointed out on the first down run percentages, they're in, what was it, the bottom three?
They were 21st.
Oh, okay. So bottom third.
I mean, it all lines up. And, I know it feels like I took out a grease marker and wrote all over the windows and went beautiful mind on this a little bit, but it really did bother me after the game. Is like, I know the philosophy is sound, so I wanted to see if there was the evidence to back it up.
Okay, so how long do you give Shane Waldron then if he doesn't start running the football?
To the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Oh,
I know it's going to happen. I just, as far as jumping on the bandwagon of somebody needs to be fired. And I was trying to think through this because Clinton asked me kind of a similar question I'm asking you. And I was of the opinion that I don't think you make any in-season changes. I think it's just in terms of giving out that identity of this being a team, you roll with the dudes you have, you work through it with the dudes that you have. And that's kind of when I think of Pete and culture and the right thing to do within that type of culture, that feels right to me.
It does. And if you think that Pete would fire Waldron now, I mean, he didn't fire Clint Hurt last year, and that performance was far worse than Waldron's performance so far,
right,
as OC this year.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it would have to be really bad.
Or Shane would have to say something mean to Glenda or something like, or
whatever
personal.
The Bears defensive coordinator did at some point this season that made him disappear from the team.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I understand everybody's frustration. I'm as much as frustrated as everybody else, but just the idea that Geno stinks and Pete's got to go, like, those aren't solutions. That's just blowing things up for the sake of blowing things up.
It's football. It's fine to have those types of opinions and emotions because that's where you throw those types of opinions and emotions. But I don't think it's necessarily reality. I think it's easier to hope and want the team to get better through who it has on the team, just because it's more likely. But I mean, it's fine. You do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can feel however you want to feel. That's for sure. But understand that, if your feelings aren't backed up by anything, then, they're just that. They're just feelings. And it's not going to, it doesn't make you look like, what's going on or have a finger on the pulse of the team. And I get it. I mean, in this, people treat football like this is the gladiators from the Coliseum. Like something goes wrong and they want blood.
Thumbs down. Yeah, I do that too, though. One of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons is when Homer just cuts everybody, and I feel like doing that sometimes. Like, okay, you screwed up, you're gone. You're out of here. Out of here. In reality, that's not the best way to build a culture or a football team. Is by canning and benching people rather than trying to get them to be better.
Absolutely. And I do think the offensive line would be better if you set them up for success. I do think the defense would be better if you set them up for success. I do think Geno would be more consistent if you set him up for success. And that's why I feel this is a philosophy coaching issue. And I do think we have the right guys. They can get it done. They just need to make the decision.
You need to go back to basics, and which is something I thought this team did 2 weeks ago, and we haven't heard any more back to basics talk since that Washington game.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's true. And it's tough to watch to see them sleepwalk offensively through entire halves and then be completely overmatched when they come up against a real deal defense like a Baltimore or San Francisco.
It's a real deal defense, though, that they're facing with the Cowboys coming up. And that's another thing that has me a little bit worried about this matchup. Steve Davies out on YouTube says Cowboys have only beaten crap teams, but they haven't lost at home since like week 4 of last year. This year, win at home. They haven't even trailed an opponent. I'm nervous about this one, but I'll wear a different beanie and sit on the other side of the room for this game.
Yep. No, we all got to do something a little different for our Hawker. It's not just the play calling, right? We got to do our part. But of these games, and we've talked about it since this stretch of games is coming up on the schedule. This seems to me the most gettable of all of them, because the Cowboys are a lot like the Seahawks. They look pretty good against mediocre / bad opponents to looking like garbage, like Dallas did against San Francisco when you play with some of the more elite teams.
You can only play who's on your schedule, but they've played a lot of bad teams on their schedule this year. I mean, they started off Giants, Jets, Cardinals, actually lost to the Cardinals, which I feel like that's, from the discussion perspective, okay, that was their one bad game. You can kind of toss that one out. They played Patriots, Niners, Chargers. So now we've seen one good team, at least, a team with a winning record. The Chargers have been fairly mediocre, and that was a close game for them. Rams, Eagles, they blew out the Rams because the Rams are bad. Eagles, they played close. Then they blew out the Giants, blew out the Panthers, and then just this past weekend, blew out the Commanders.
Yeah, not exactly murderer's row. And it's not as if the Seahawks have a bunch of marquee wins other than Detroit on their resume either. So
sure,
it does make you nervous going into Dallas and knowing that their record is what it is. And, shout out to Steve too. I saw him jumping in the comments there on our post-game show. I saw it late, but man, he took it on the chin from some Niners fans as well for basically trying to state the same thing. So shout out to you, Steve, man. You know what you're talking about.
Steve's got your back. We've got Steve's back. And if you're going to pick out a marquee win, ours is Detroit. But what is Dallas's? The Chargers? The 20-17 win in LA?
Yeah.
I think you that's then taking away from just the absolute beatdowns that they've put on opponents in Dallas. But again, it's Jets, Patriots, Rams, and maybe we shouldn't even be talking about that one because we lost to the Rams, but Giants, Commanders.
Yeah.
And they've destroyed them. They've destroyed them all in Dallas.
Absolutely. And look, you're going up against a good Cowboys defense, and they're very good against the pass. I mean, of course there's Micah Parsons, right? And I mean, some people think that he's Lawrence light, right? And that's fine. Dexter Lawrence is good as well.
You've got Deron Bland, who has more touchdowns than DK Metcalf, as was pointed out to DK in the press conference.
Right. I'm sure that got under his skin.
I think actually DK. So he was asked about Deron Bland, and DK responded, "Yeah, he has more touchdowns than I do."
Okay, well, there you go. He's putting it on himself. I like it. Yeah. I like it. No, their defense is really good against the pass, and they've got marquee pass rushers, and their linebackers are good. The way that you take the starch out of that is to run bubble screens the entire game,
which I thought we would do against San Fran, but again, bubble screens and run the football, and I don't know. I'm worried it's just going to be more of the same. I don't know. Why do I have that feeling? Because it's what we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it is a legitimate worry. And I just hope that somewhere in the bowels of the VMAC that they're having this exact same conversation and coming to the exact same conclusions.
Hey, maybe we should do something different than we have the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's do something a little different. Maybe we'll run the football a little bit and we'll call it good.
Because the Cowboys, they're around average in terms of their run yardage given up per play on defense. So it's not like you pointed out the side of the ball that they're particularly good against, and that's the pass.
Yep. And they're a heck of an offensive team. They've been putting up the most points in the league throughout the year, this year, again, against lesser competition. So you're going to have to help out that defense by staying on the field and by running the football. I think that helps you on third downs. I think that helps you in the red zone. And so that you stay ahead of the sticks and that you keep the ball out of the opponent's hands and you actually match them score for score rather than touchdowns for field goals or missed 50-yarders field goals.
Again, I thought this was something that JSN was supposed to unlock for our team. Third downs and red zone scores.
He's starting to, man. He should have had a touchdown against the Niners. Yeah. And he had that
one amazing catch.
Holy cow. That was an amazing catch. You know what I didn't need to see? More replays of the Odell Beckham catch than the replays of JSN's catch.
Yeah. Well, I think they just needed something that was close because it was the anniversary of the Odell catch to then roll it on the reels. Like they needed something, and that was the closest to it. That when it happened, you knew you weren't going to see anything much better than that in the entire game.
Yeah. They had that package already done up and ready to rock.
Yeah, it was locked and loaded.
Yeah.
So what do you worry about in terms of offense for the Cowboys? Like, I mean, CD Lamb, obviously, very good receiver. I don't know in terms of their run game. Do they have somebody that just it's not like the Niners offense where like every single dude seems to be really good at breaking tackles, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't fear their backs the same way that I do with the Niners or anything like that. The thing that I fear the most about the Cowboys offense is if they come out and start throwing the football and the pass rush doesn't even come close to getting home. You give Dak Prescott clean pockets and he's one of the better QBs in the league. He'll slice and dice you all day. And the wideouts are pretty damn good as well.
Well, and that's a big factor too, is that they've kept him clean in the pocket a lot more than they haven't this season. So the offensive line is doing a good job at protecting Dak.
Without a question. And so I think the key to this game defensively for the Seahawks is going to be literally getting after the quarterback. And I hope that they don't make big changes on defense in terms of bringing extra dudes and running stunts and doing what they can do. Because I mean, I heard Collinsworth and Tirico throughout the Thanksgiving game. Oh, Mike, yeah, just no pressure on Brock Purdy at all. Whereas like almost every play, he doesn't just stand in the pocket. He had to like move around, get up, start running out a little bit. There's pressure. They just didn't get home.
Right.
It's a totally different thing. So even if they could do just that, I think it would be enough to get Dak off his game because he's not as accurate on the run as Brock Purdy is.
No, but he has one of the things about him that I would be a little bit concerned about is that even when you send extra guys against Dak so far this season, he's having a lot of success. I mean, he's playing at a different level, I think, this year than he has in past years. So like, even when you send more guys, he's able to pick up the blitz effectively and move the ball. I mean, like even when he's blitzed, 7.6 yards per attempt for Dak.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And I think you're right. I think this is maybe Dak's best year as a pro so far. And there was a lot of lamenting amongst the Cowboys this offseason when they let go of the OC, ended up in Charger land, right? Kellen Moore. Right. I mean, that's worked out how it's worked out. But the idea of McCarthy taking play calling back over and how bad that was going to be. And, so far against lesser competition, it's looked pretty good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of coaches and coordinators, it's kind of a reunion, right? Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys now. Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. All guys that, I guess Dan Quinn we got it done with, but we didn't get it done with Shotty. That's for sure.
That's one of the other questions there. One of the other points that someone pointed out was that none of the OCs that have been let go have gone out and really had huge success elsewhere.
That's true. I mean, Bevel went to...
So maybe Pete Carroll is really bad at hiring offensive coordinators.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly the case. Who knows? But we do know that he is a defensive-minded football coach. So yeah, maybe that is a bit of a blind spot still.
And if you're looking on to move toward another defensive coach after Pete Carroll's time, Dan Quinn has been great as a defensive coordinator. I don't know about his time in Atlanta.
He had one great year.
Yeah. All right. Anything else with this matchup between Cowboys and the Seahawks before we get on to the second half of the show?
God, I hope they get this one. Like this is the one. Otherwise, this turns into that stretch where the playoffs are pretty iffy.
I think the article that I read said they have to win one out of the next three to really maintain their playoff hopes and positioning.
Yeah.
Like they could still get there, obviously, but we're seeing the Packers make up some ground. We're seeing the Rams make up a little ground. We're seeing, I don't know, maybe the Saints and Falcons, like those two teams. It seems like more of a slap fight in the NFC South, but who knows? Like two teams could end up coming out of that division if our division starts to tank.
Right. And the other thing to keep in mind too is we are literally one game against ahead of the Rams, and we have lost the tiebreaker handily.
Yeah, we don't need to finish in a tie with the Rams at the end of the season. That would be the worst possible outcome.
Oh God. Yeah.
As far as this is where I kind of agree with some of the play for draft position people. If you're going to make the playoffs, make it, but don't miss the playoffs by one game, because then you're just stuck in this limbo land.
For sure. It does make it more difficult. Not impossible. I mean, the Eagles have been there forever.
And they ended up drafting their quarterback in the top of the second round, and that's ended up working out okay for them.
I sure did.
Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right.
Getting into the second half of the show, and as we record this, we are following a little bit of the Vikings game against the Bears, the 9-9 barn burner that it is going into the fourth quarter. And I guess I wanted the Vikings to do well, in part because my brother lives in Minnesota, and so it kind of end up being a de facto, like you kind of root for them a little bit because they're a local team for him. And I had a little bit of hope about Josh Dobbs going there and kind of, having a real opportunity rather than being stuck down in Arizona. The thing that bothered me, though, a little bit was when I started to hear Seahawks fans kind of, I don't know, maybe wanting Dobbs over Geno Smith.
I think they call that cheaters when you're looking outside of your current relationship. I think cheaters is the word.
Lusting. I think lusting was the word that I was looking for. They were lusting over Josh Dobbs when they had Geno Smith on the team.
4 picks tonight, man. 4 picks.
Yeah.
Still want Josh Dobbs over Geno Smith. And, I mean, he had to come back to earth. And of all people, he knows that as a rocket scientist, right? Like he knows that when it goes up, it's got to come back down, right?
Yeah. It's just the force of gravity.
Yeah.
Part of it too is, he doesn't have Justin Jefferson, but he's got some weapons around him there in Minnesota too.
Addison's been good.
That whole group of receivers that went right there together in the first round after JSM was taken, whether it's Zay Flowers, Addison, Quentin Johnson for the Chargers.
He has not been good.
He hasn't been that good. No. So it's 1 out of 4, but I think he still has the potential.
Maybe it's nice to see that JSN is coming along though, and being used more and more. He had a catch earlier in the game too that was kind of over his shoulder, the left shoulder up the left sideline a little bit. It was kind of lollipopped out. That was a nice catch. He's going to be a good receiver, and we have to remember Golden Tate wasn't good for us year 1. He wasn't good for us year 2.
I wasn't even counting on, I feel like the amount of production that we've gotten from Jackson so far has been above expectations for me for a rookie.
Oh, okay. I'd say it's about on par. Yeah.
And I didn't have that high hopes for DK in his rookie season, and he had one of the better rookie season in Seahawks history.
Oh yeah. You and me both. I was wrong about that one for sure. Now we could probably be breaking those records again, right? If it was just more Bobo. Because that's the other thing. Everybody just wants more Bobo, and they're like, that'll fix the offense.
I want more Bobo.
I like Bobo.
I might have more to say about Bobo. I'm still doing a little bit of research that I want to dial it in a little bit more before I work out my thoughts on it.
Good. But so your homework assignment for this next week is to get your Bobo presentation together, since I decided to put together a sophomore high school year presentation for y'all.
Yeah, there you go. On the why you should run the football more.
Mm-hmm.
I should shift mine to why we need more Bobo.
More Bobo. Exactly.
Fair enough. You've laid down the gauntlet, and I must match you.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we talked about that, because I don't really want to talk about NFC West stuff.
No, I think I'm good on that. I've had enough this week.
Because we couldn't count on the stupid Cardinals to try and at least take out the Rams for 1 week.
Nope, couldn't do it.
Nope, that couldn't happen.
Nope, and still screw the Rams. I think that's all that needs to be said.
Who are we counting on the Rams, like just tanking over the... I think they have some tough teams on their schedule. I don't know if we have to worry about them. I think I went through their schedule just this last week out of curiosity and thought that 8 and 9 seemed kind of in range, but they'd have to do some work.
Yeah, and that feels right with their talent level and all that. I mean, they can't play Pete Carroll every week.
Exactly. They've actually finished with that. So
there's their 2 freebies in the year.
I feel like we weren't going to go there, and then we went there, and now I feel sad.
Yeah, me too. But there's a few people that lift me up each and every week. I'll tell you that.
It is our members of the flock. Getintheflock.com if you want to become a member. And we've got some executive producers. We've got a new executive producer to add. 2 new executive producers to add to the list this week. Adam, we've got, of course, DCH, Becca Christensen, Brian Shaw, JC Schilling, and Jake Burdine. And coming in with a $500 donation via Venmo at Hawkra on Venmo, Mr. Garen Taylor of Guaranteed Barbecue coming in.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Appreciate you, Garen, more than you know. And I hope that we can, get you a little more value out of that $500. Get a few more people other than just Dan from Lewiston showing up to take advantage of the little flocker discount at Guaranteed Barbecue.
Yeah, you mentioned the little flocker discount at his food trailer in Kellogg, Idaho. 12% off your entire order. No, it's not just if you are ordering for yourself. Bring the whole family. It's 12% off the entire order.
Absolutely, because, Garen's a generous guy.
We found out this week. Holy smokes. And he did send us a text. He didn't send us an email along with it, so I feel like I'll just keep the text private. But say thank you to Garen, and also say thank you to John DeSmarto, who has been with us for a long time as well. He came in with what I believe is a $12 donation over the course of 2 years, because it's $288. So, John, we are adding you to the executive producer list here for the next 4 months.
Heck yeah, man. He's definitely earned it. No doubt about it.
Little Catfish in at $5 via getintheflock.com. Welcome to the flock to Little Catfish.
Little Catfish. You know that they listen to the show for sure.
And Dustin Steger came in at $36 for the annual donation. And Dustin says, been a freeloader for far too long, and the Hawkra desperately needs a boost. This is a call to all other freeloaders out there to get in the flock and raise the Hawkra. We are an agonizing position as Hawks fans where we are just good enough to give us hope, but not good enough to be legit contenders. Not sure what the answer is, but something needs to happen to turn things around. Maybe Adam needs to conjure up another curse. Thanks for all the great content y'all produce. Catfish the Whiners, Catfish the Lambs, and who cares about that other team with a toddler quarterback? Go Hawks!
Go Hawks, man. Great email there. And Dustin, he's going to be the reason that the Seahawks turn it around in Dallas. It's that right there. Him coming off the schneid of being a longtime freeloader and getting in the flock and up in the Hawkra and laying out the challenge for everybody else. This is Dustin's victory. I'm calling it already.
Calling it already. I hope we get it because, like you pointed out, this next 3-game stretch, they need one, and this one feels like the most likely. But I'll go ahead and say, as long as it's one over the next 3, I don't care which team it is.
Actually, if I got to choose...
Oh, I would choose the Niners.
Oh, it wouldn't even be close, especially after all of those Niners that have been fans that have been hiding in their basement for the last 10 years came out of the woodwork after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Good
they're like,
Lord.
oh, we finally beat the Seahawks by a significant amount. I think now is the time to enter the comment section on YouTube to really hype up our Niners team.
Oh my gosh, this was originally going to be my do better, but then something else popped up. Because there is a subsection of Niners fans. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not even saying the majority of them. There is a subsection of them that find it acceptable to go into the opposing team's comments and talk all of this catfish because they don't have a life.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to address that certain subset of Niners fans.
Yeah. Golly.
And there's more within that team group than I think any other. Well, I mean, it's not hard within the division, obviously, because, there's 2 Rams fans.
Right.
They added one this last year. I think they may have paid them, but I don't know how they got them on board.
Each have 3 fake accounts, which makes it seem a little bit bigger.
A little bit higher.
Yeah.
And then there's Arizona, which, they...
Who?
They exactly. They're the Who team in the division.
Absolutely. But yes, Niners fans, that subsection is the largest of the subsections, and they're the worst about running their mouth as front runners and don't have crap to say when the wheels fall off.
And if you're part of that subsection of Seahawks fans too, you can be better.
You can be better. I've never have, and I never will go into an opposing team's comments and type just nasty ass stuff. I might do it and be like, hey, that was a great game. You guys are pretty good at some of these things. I think that we could be more competitive if we do this, this, and this. I don't mind those comments.
No, it's the one. I think you have to start it out with, because we did get some of those this last week where it starts off as a 49ers fan. They introduce themselves out front to say, right. Hey, here's my card. I'm showing it coming into enemy territory. I have something to say. Those ones usually are okay.
You don't even have to start it with something nice. Just be factual or actually rebut the points being made on the show rather than just being like, you're a moron.
Yeah, and don't rebut our emotional homer points. That's what part of this show is for.
It's a show by 12s, for 12s. Come on, people. What do you expect? Do you come on here to hear the Matt Mioko's take on the 49ers? No, you do not, because we don't have Matt Maiocco on the show, because we don't want any of those dirty Niners on the show.
Yeah, we want to give our fan perspective and it be, a lot of hope and wanting, and that's how it works out sometimes.
Absolutely. And over the last decade plus, it's worked out in our favor immensely.
And really, that's a good point to end this on, because the amount of support that we've gotten from our flock, from people joining, even in these, I always worry, when we get beat down, it's okay, everybody's going to cancel their subscription. They're going to decide that they're not going to be Seahawks fans anymore. We're not going to have a show. Everybody's going to be gone. And no, it turned out to be opposite of my expectations. People joined, and people, providing support, and people joining in after the post-game show and talking about it and giving us excellent things to talk about during the post-game. It's
generous with super chats, subscribing, all that stuff. Amazing.
Yeah. So it's been really cool to have that be opposite of expectations, and it also makes it fun. Yeah. Even though the content might not be I don't like talking about losing to division rivals.
I definitely don't like talking about getting mollywomped by division rivals. That's
I don't even like that word mollywomped for that reason.
I know, because it sounds like it feels. You don't want to get whopped by Molly, dude. You don't.
No, I don't even know what that means, but you don't want it.
Don't need to.
At the end of the show, we're going to be sure to thank our flockers at $12 and above as well. We haven't done that this month, and after Thanksgiving now seems appropriate, not just because I put it off this long, but because it's the season.
Oh, can I throw one more thank you in there, since it's coming off Thanksgiving and all that? Just to all of you guys, we launched the Gulchworks thing and the post-game presser and the Ring of Honor and all that. And we basically sold out in a day and a half. And that is so amazing and so appreciative. Me and Britt have put a lot into trying to get this thing off of the ground and learn the skills to, make some decent enough stuff that we felt like we could put out there, and to have it validated like that by you guys. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart, and from Brittany as well. You guys are absolutely amazing. And I couldn't be more appreciative.
GulchworksMT.com. If you are a whiskey drinker or a recreational smoker, there may still be some things left in the store for you.
Those are the only things left at this moment. We're hoping to have some new product up at the end of the week that works really great for gifts. If you didn't see it, basically we're doing wood epoxy creations, a lot of cutting boards. I've got a couple wireless phone chargers we're going to put out, some organizational trays, charcuterie boards. I'm going to do some more bottle openers. People seem to like that say Seahawks make me drink, all sorts of fun stuff. And it's all made from the trees right here in the Gulch that died via beetle kill and are just sitting out here rotting, and that the lumber companies won't do anything with, and the Forest Service thinks is a fire hazard. So we decided to do something with it. So made mostly from solar power, forest to home. We think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, check it out. Gulchworksmt.com. What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
Heck yeah, man. My do better this week is for Salesforce in Matthew McConaughey. And it pays me to throw Matthew McConaughey in here because I really do like his philosophy of life in a lot of ways, and listening to him talk about some things now and then. Gets a little sanctimonious sometimes, but that's okay. Like, for the most part, I like the guy. But these Salesforce commercials, Brandon, they got to go. They're talking about AI in the most nonsensical ways I have ever heard in my life.
Uh-oh.
Like, what? One of the commercials was he comes on and he's like standing in a field or something, and he's like, what becomes self-aware first, AI or us? And that's the end of the commercial. What the catfish does that mean? You're not talking about any of the things that matter with this. How it could improve your lives, how it could destroy the world, nothing. No, you're just cool with it. Or if AI is the wild, wild west, then who's the sheriff around here? What the catfish does that mean? That's just like Salesforce as a whole. I still have no clue what they do. It's been described to me by people who either have worked there or worked around that company. They don't even know. This is some of the most ambiguous nonsense that's spewed over TV regarding a topic that, I don't know, has a massive importance to humanity. So for Salesforce and Matthew McConaughey, do better.
Let me tell you something, Adam. Salesforce is a pyramid scheme for ideas.
That feels good. Okay. That feels like it's on the nose. You bet.
I don't know. I just, based off of your commercials, I feel like that fits right in.
I mean, I don't know what, then who's the sheriff around here? What do you mean who's the sheriff? You need to be the sheriff if you're developing AI. You shouldn't be confused.
No. You should have an answer for this.
Yes.
If you're the one asking the question, maybe you should have the answer.
Matthew McConaughey, responsible for real life Skynet. That's what's happening right now.
He's promoting it, and he's going to be the one that allows it to happen.
Yeah. Because I tell you what, when AI is taking over the world, if you look at them and are rolling a booger in your Lincoln in between your fingers, and are like, I mean, what's the difference between living or dying? And the difference between me and you, who's more real, me or you or the universe? Like, they ain't going to care. It's just going to kill you. You're dead now.
Well, my do better this week is for Shireen Williams of Pro Football Talk. And I don't know if I can put it all on Shireen necessarily, because, part of this is what I like her too. I think she's really good on Pro Football Talk. But I also know that part of that website's job is to take other sites and kind of repurpose their content and make it a little bit more interesting so that you click on it. And that's exactly what happened in this case, because the headline is report Greg Olsen has interest in Panthers head coaching job. And I'm thinking, wait a second, is this the Greg Olsen that's like an announcer on TV? Because I remember him being a tight end in Seattle, and then he went on to become a broadcaster. I'm trying to think in my mind, like, where he would have the opportunity to gain the knowledge and experience required to not just be able to be a head coach, but then also be considered to be a head coach, to then be asked if he might have interest. So Shireen took this off of an Athletic report, which I'm not even sure if the do better goes to the Athletic in this case, because I traced it back to this article and I got to this paragraph. Ex-Carolina tight end Greg Olsen, color analyst for Fox's #1 NFL crew, would be interested in the Panthers vacancy if he were approached, according to sources close to Olsen who were granted anonymity so that they could speak freely. So I think I'm going to give it to Joseph Person and Richard Deitch. Like, if you find yourself writing a paragraph that has all of these different caveats that he would be interested, if he were approached based on a source that would only grant you the knowledge of this if they were anonymous. Like, this is crazy stuff. Adam, if the Seahawks approached me for taking over for Pete Carroll after he's done, you're darn right I'd be interested. But are they going to even consider me? No, because I have no experience. So the point that this is even an article, it shouldn't even be one. And so to Joseph Person and Richard Deitch, Shireen, you're off the hook. Those guys need to do better.
Report, Brandon Schultz interested in Seahawks head coaching position if offered. And when I wrote that article,
you can attribute that to me. You don't even have to go anonymous source.
No, I had it before I got your interview, which maybe I should have waited for, because I have 3 sources from another planet that talk to me in a different language that live in Area 51 that can't come out and put their names to the source, that said that John Schneider is heavily considering you.
It's about time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody recognized that I might have something to offer this organization.
Yeah, and it's aliens.
they know.
Yeah,
we got flockers all over the place, people.
Absolutely.
On to Better at Life. My Better at Life this week is going to be for society, Adam. Society is better at life this week because you know what happened? We had a Black Friday this past week. Nobody got killed. Nobody got trampled. Like, it seemed like a pretty chill, no injury Black Friday. And I don't care if it's because it means that there weren't like crazy deals to line up at the store for. I'm just happy that as a society, we've gotten past it. So for all of us, we are all better at life than Skip Bayless.
Heck yeah, man. That Black Friday stuff was getting gnarly there for a minute. Do you think the cyber money has taken a little bit off the top for people?
Maybe. I feel like some of the Black Friday deals started earlier. They're putting them online so people don't have to even go out anyway, which is, I think, how most of us, like, that's no fun waiting out in the cold just to get like a $6 toaster.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got past that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it got to the tipping point when somebody created like a Black Friday deaths website count, like a counter for it. Like, once we got to that point to where we recognize that this is dangerous stuff,
Wow.
I think it's probably time to avoid this.
Well, I am running for president on shopping control as my platform. That's what I'm doing. Instead of gun control, is shopping control, because if you have a counter for deaths, then that can definitely be a legit platform to, run for something.
They might be off the table now. I think it's been solved.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Yeah. All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for YouTube Premium rather than straight up YouTube. And I didn't realize how much better this was in my life until recently, because when Britt and I watch YouTube on the big screen in the cabin, it's usually off of my tablet and from my YouTube Premium account, and she does not have YouTube Premium. So yeah, there's a lot that you miss out on that is better for your deal. Like, I didn't realize there was a dude named Tim Sheehy running for U.S. Senate in Montana that can wrestle alligators and, fly to the moon with a cape, and is an American hero 5 times over, and looks good in a jumpsuit and a hanger, and is an outsider. He didn't even shoot a drone or a TV in his commercial, Brandon.
You're allowed to do that?
I guess. I don't know. I thought that was required in Montana, but didn't do it. But golly, the ad was so bad. It was so bad. Like, not that I'm voting for any of our jokers, because they're all jokers. I don't care. I don't care what side of the aisle he's on or anything like that. But seeing that and being like, oh, that still exists. Those sort of things that you have to watch on Brittany's regular YouTube. Boy, did that make me appreciate YouTube Premium. It's let me hide with my head in the sand a little bit and not care about the circus over in Washington. So for YouTube Premium, better at life than Skip Bayless. Thank you so much.
Worth every penny of that $22, $23 a month. How does Brittany get by? Like, how does she just doesn't know how the other half lives, apparently.
Well, she does. She freeloads off mine.
Oh, well then what's
Yeah. So it's just weird when we end up using hers for one reason. It's usually because something in her algorithm is what we're looking for, right? That's
yeah.
not mine. But I don't know. Have you seen any of the political ads this year?
No, I haven't had a desire to either.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. And then G.I. Joe Tim Sheehy was on my screen. So
is he for Senate?
Sure. Yeah.
So it would be right for the whole state then? Okay.
Yeah. I think it's him or Tester.
Oh, is it those two? Okay. I'm not even sure who's running, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it don't make no never mind. They never do a damn thing for anybody if you're not in the wealthiest 0.1%. So who cares?
I feel like I had something political to talk about this week, but it's escaped me.
Okay. Well,
might be for the better.
Yeah. There's some fun stuff going on for sure. The good news is if you were to talk about the top 2 presidential candidates, whether that's Biden or Trump, neither one of them would remember it after you said it. So that's pretty cool.
One thing that I have remembered, though, is that it is time to thank our members of the flock at $12 and above.
Heck yeah.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Eric Trench, rooting for the Seahawks out of Renton, Washington, graduated from Eastern Washington University.
Jameson Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
This is Hawk Van Dyke from the beautiful city of London and the capital of the UK.
Lisa in Seattle.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jose, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Renkomon, France.
Paul from San Diego.
Aaron Fisher, coming in from Henderson, Nevada, hopefully future resident of the PNW.
Chris Boucher, a.k.a. the biggest little flocker, South Central Louisiana State University, go Mud Dogs.
This is J.C. Schilling coming in all the way from Mackenbach, Germany with Hudson and Quinn saying,
Catfish!
And
go Hawks! Go Hawks! Go Hawks! Go Hawks!
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the Rose. Go Hawks.
Kicking things off once again, a thanks to our executive producers, DCH, Becca Christensen, Brian Shaw, JC Schilling, Jake Burdine, John DeSmartu, and Garen Taylor. Continuing with the list of $12 supporters and above, we start with Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Jake in Seattle, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, Jeremy in the Bronx, Tim in Austin, Brandon in Huntersville, North Carolina, James in Beaux Arts, Pepper in Greenville, South Carolina, Jay in Linwood, Jonathan in Ridgefield, JC in Horsford, England, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Kevin in Surrey, BC, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Dean in the Greater Hoctum, Jeffrey in Kansas City, Glenn in Ocoee, Florida, Brian in Omak, John W. in New York, John C. in the Greater Hoctum, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Dr. G in League City, Texas, Jeremy in Federal Way, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Josh in Candor, New York, Ken in Hutto, Texas, Mario in Seattle, Cora in Ditters, Deutschland, Anders in Vila, Denmark, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Tim in Olympia, Chris in Austin, Jeff in Bainbridge Island, Amy in Squim, Marlon in the Greater Hoctum, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Flopster in Round Rock, Texas, Joseph in Vancouver, Dan in the Greater Hoctum, Corey in Ridgefield, Norma in the Greater Hoctum, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Kyle in the Greater Hoctum, Janie in Oswestry, England, Joshua in the Greater Hoctum, Rafe in Beaverton, Oregon, DJ in Menifee, California, Terrence in Dallas, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, BB in Oakland, Spooty Poo in Olympia, Jason in Panama City, Florida, Gordon in Valdez, Alaska, Bridget in Redmond, Ryan in Crestview, Florida, Jeff in Gilbert, Arizona, Kayla in Vancouver, Tanner in Kalispell, Montana, Ryan in Fairbanks, Sean in Cascade, Iowa via Kalispell, Montana, Alexander in Oranienburg, Deutschland, Jason in Portland, Daniel C. in the Greater Hockham, Daniel in Swindon, Sweden, Oliver in Fort St. John, BC, Eric in Kalispell, Ian in Seattle, Ovary Smasher 69 in Phoenix, B-Walls 22 in New York, Jay in Fairbanks, Corey in Robertson, Australia, Russell in Harpenden, England, Sam in Almonte Springs, Florida, Chris in Manchester, England, Logan in Evansville, Indiana, Nathan in Fife, Charles in Spokane, Jonathan in Newmarket, England, Ranger Luke in Olathe, Kansas, Ken in Stanwood, Mike in Kelowna, BC, Freddie in Longview, Edward in the Greater Hockham, Stu in Navarre, Florida, The Poetrist in Boise, Matt in Sultan, RJ in Bucyrus, Kansas, Matt in Melbourne, Australia, Kelsey in Olympia, Gareth in Chester, England, Chris in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Ryan in Silverton, Oregon, Greg in Lake City, Colorado, John in Waco, Nebraska, Martin in Ferrum, Denmark, and Daniel in Oakville, Australia. A big thanks to everyone who helps support the show each and every month. Really big thanks, especially this time of year, going into the holidays. And you know what? We probably wouldn't have YouTube Premium without any of you.
Oh, for sure. I'd be on the road right now, and I would have missed probably half of the Seahawks games so far this year in terms of live shows. Your guys' support has been amazing, and I get to enjoy the YouTube Premium, all because of you guys. Yeah.
You know what? I think we're still hanging on to this, but part of the reason why I realized I needed it was because of this show. And when we would go back, because YouTube has those like 12-minute recaps that you can watch a game where it's like just cut up to the plays to where you don't have to watch a running play for 1 yard. You don't have to watch a bunch of incomplete passes. You can just kind of watch the game as through the good plays. And it's like 12 minutes. It's perfect. And then without ads, it just made it that much better. And it is because of this show that I realized that I needed it in my life.
Heck yeah, man. It does help in the prep for sure. Because watching the all 22 does get rather stodgy. Even if you get a gem out of it, like, I don't know, every time Gino took a sack because he's holding the ball, there wasn't one person even close to open. So
there you go. See, yeah. Geno Smith, he's all right.
He's slightly above average as a quarterback right now. And, you know, that's good enough to get it done if, I don't know, utilize the other half of the offense.
Utilize the other half of the offense, run the football down the throat of these Dallas Cowboys. Let's get our win. And then let's keep it on rolling against those 49ers the following week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. And with that,
I think there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.